I went to see the new Jurassic World last night.
I have not heard good things about the last few Jurassic Worlds.
Chris Pratt is not in this one, so that's like an automatic +2 stars on my end.
There's a good start.
I have only seen the very first one with Chris Pratt. I have not seen any of the original Jurassic Park movies, just because it's kind of like
the OG one is fantastic.
I've heard good things about it, but it's just like it's one of those brands of movies where it's like you don't need to watch them to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
There's dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That's it. But from what I understand, it sounds like they're kind of trying to scrap the idea of Chris Pratt ever existing in this universe. Because this is like a reboot. But like the park was a thing, but they mentioned nothing of what happened in the other ones. But the key takeaway is that they gave the T-Rex Michael Myers powers.
That's cool. The last villain dinosaur they had was supposed to be the Joker, but a dinosaur.
Yeah, there's like a scene where they're like trying to get a raft to get into a river to like float down the river because one of the people are injured. And the girl, like the T-Rex is fucking asleep, like it looks like Havoc. Like Sean and I both looked at each other and we were like, this thing is acting like Havoc. It's like fully on its back, tongue out, looks fucking ridiculous. The girl inflates the raft on the dock and the T-Rex wakes up and the raft falls on its side and like obscures the T-Rex, and then it tips over and the T-Rex is just gone. It like pops up and does a jump scare. And I was like, funny. They're giving it Michael Myers powers. Love that for them.
Yeah.
It was not a good movie, but it was palatable. Okay. It was just, I see no direction of where the movie's going to go after this because it's allegedly a trilogy.
This is like the 4th or 5th one.
But like everything was resolved at the end of this. There was no like, I mean, the main dinosaur that they had to fight at the very end was like still alive, but the whole point of this dinosaur was that it was on an island that it could not escape.
Jurassic World is such garbage.
So I don't know where it's gonna go. It kind of like, and the thing that really pissed me off is they get, so basically, without spoiling it, because you're not going to watch it, but it doesn't really matter. All you need to know is that Scarlett Johansson's in it, and she's like a mercenary for hire. And then they end up at the very beginning of the movie rescuing like a normal group of humans whose boat just like sank. And they have to bring them with them to the island because they were like, our mission, like we can't take you all the way back to America and then come back down to where we are because they have to be at the equator. And they get separated the second they get to the island. So all the normal humans, all the normal people who are not mercenaries are like on the island. And then Scarlett Johansson's team is like doing their mission. And they both end up syncing up at the end of the movie, navigating the entire island by themselves. So it's like the whole point of Scarlett Johansson being this mercenary is completely moot because the humans who were stupid and sank their own boat just navigated the island flawlessly.
Well, yeah, it's in their DNA.
In their DNA.
The monkey. Anyways, this is for you.
Oh.
I have mine right here.
Giddy up, slut. Should I wear it right now?
If you want to. It's from Joe.
I
told you last week.
I just did my hair, so I'm actually not going to do that.
Yeah, that's for me.
Oh, here comes Havoc.
And to start this episode,
maybe,
I have this video that I want you to watch.
After we get rid of this animal, he might actually lay down. And if he does,
just chills, it's fine. Anyway, is the volume on the TV? I'm gonna do my best to sync this up with what we're watching. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to do it.
Okay.
But
this might be super loud. We'll see.
Yeah. Not playing any volume.
It's playing through your phone.
Playing through my phone? Oh, no, I have it muted. Hold on.
Today we're storming the Capitol
as part of a game.
So this is the Stone Nest, a venue in London, and it's currently hosting Fight for America.
It is a participatory art installation with a tabletop war game at the centerpiece.
Just down there is a massive model of the US Capitol shipped over here
this
from
feels
America.
Illegal.
And yes, you heard us right. This is a controversial satirical tabletop war game of the January 6th insurrection in the USA.
It was built by the...
So...
Okay, wait. First thoughts. There was a statue of Trump in there. Stop making Trump skinny. He's not skinny. He's fat. He's a tub of lard. Like, I don't mean that like to be derogatory towards fat people, but he is fat.
He is
Stop
pretty
making him
chunky.
skinny. Like, he's not a good looking guy.
So yeah, they made a January 6th board game.
The Catan expansion.
I was scrolling through TikTok and I came across this and I was like, this is fucking insane. I've probably watched this video like 3 times. It gets crazier. But just a little pre-context. So you know what Warhammer is at all?
Yeah, Henry Cavill's going to be in the movie.
Okay, do you know what Warhammer is at all besides Henry Cavill?
I know it's a video game, and I know it must be an RPG video game because Henry Cavill's going to be it, and he only plays RPG video games.
Okay. Not wrong, but not right. Warhammer is a tabletop game like this where you essentially buy, there's a bunch of different factions. I don't know enough about Warhammer. I know a little bit, but not a whole lot. There's a bunch of different factions. Like you have the Tyranids, you have the like Space Marines, and then like some other alien and human factions that you buy little miniature statues of, and then you paint them to look like whatever you want. And then you build like an army. And then with your army, you take all of your little statues, you go to someone's house or a game store or whatever, and then there will be like a battlefield on like this big ass table.
So it's a physical game. It's not a video.
Yeah, well, they have video games, but
Okay.
the main part of it is this tabletop game.
Okay.
And then you like roll dice to figure out like how far your people can move and like what actions they can take and stuff like that. And it's all based off like distance. So everybody has tape measures and you're like, okay, this unit is like 3 inches away from this unit, but its attack can only reach 2 inches. So I need to move forward another inch. But like if I do that, the sniper over here that has like 10 inches of range can hit me. It's like insanely detailed, insanely complicated. The worst people you know play it.
The conversation I have in my head at the bars.
Yeah.
When another male threatens my target.
Yeah, so let's see what the factions are for this
God.
January 6th.
American Vicarious, a
Game.
non-profit that creates content like this that grapples with ideas about what contemporary America is.
And like us, you might be wondering why it exists, and why is it in London? So we came down to participate in a game and to chat to the creators.
Side note, it is 32 degrees.
Oh my God.
It's 32 degrees.
Yeah, I don't know why.
No camera should
There
be
are 20
ever that close to a
participants in
British
total,
person.
playing as either the rioters or law enforcement, essentially reenacting the
Damn.
events of January.
You want to be
6th.
Hitler or do you want to be
Complete with
Mussolini?
true-to-life interruptions from Trump that affected gameplay.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Good luck.
May the best.
I volunteered to take the side of the rioters, and I was put in charge of the Proud Boys, where I'd be attempting to storm this entrance to the Capitol building. And similar to Warhammer, you
Why
also
are the
get
rioters
hero
fat, but
pieces
Trump
who
is
provide
skinny?
buffs to units. So got Proud Boy,
Hold on.
Enrique Tarrio, there you go.
So yeah, in Warhammer, you often have like heroes or leaders for your army that have special abilities.
Right.
The leader for the rioter group is the head of the Proud Boys.
Yeah.
And so it's the Proud Boys versus the DC police for this tabletop game.
The funny thing is this was like a QAnon thing.
It was
Like, I mean, the Proud Boys were there, and Enrique Tarrio very much got sentenced for it, but
Yeah.
like Q very much like blew the oxygen on the flames, if you will, for this. Like, without Q, I don't think that the Proud Boys would have been able to do this.
I mean, he does have
Because-
a little badge that looks like a Q on his chest.
He's part of QAnon, I'm sure,
Probably.
but little Mima wouldn't have been able to get into the Capitol. Enrique Tarrio didn't get into the Capitol, but Mima did.
Yeah.
Is there a Mima action figure?
Let's find out.
Oh, please be a Mima.
Fact about Enrique Tarrio, he is currently suing the U.S. government for $100 million for violating his constitutional rights, I believe, as it related to January 6th.
Okay,
But he is the leader of the Proud Boys.
cool, thank you.
Yeah.
The leader of the Proud
What an opportunity for
Okay,
you.
I know. The aim of the rioters was to find Mike Pence and to hang him. It was
Based.
at this point
Yeah, that's how you win. You
You
break
find-
into the Capitol, find Mike Pence, and then string him up.
Okay. I have a big problem with the British doing this. I think if you put any other country doing this instead of the British, I would be fine with this. But because it's the British, I disagree with this whole premise. I don't find this funny. I don't find this entertaining.
I mean, this isn't
it's
like a British thing. It's like a
the,
traveling installation.
But it's in the UK when they filmed it. And for that, they lose points.
Would you play this?
Yeah.
Would you also volunteer to take the Nazis?
What is the objective for the police? To
Just
not
keep
let
them
Mike
out.
Pence get hung?
Yeah, it's like a attack defend scenario. Like you just have to defend the Capitol.
They should do this with 9/11.
The 9/11 Warhammer game? How would that work? You just a big ass plane and you have to like defend the cockpit?
No, you gotta have like the Newark airport. You gotta like the TSA is the first line of defense. If that fails, the second
TSA
line.
didn't exist. It was created in response to 9/11.
Were they really just letting people on planes back then?
Yeah, you could just walk up to the gate and get on a plane.
That's crazy.
Thanks, Osama.
No Patriot Act shit, but that's crazy to me. Like,
I'll admit I started to feel a bit sick and not sure what I had signed up to.
Meanwhile, I was taking on the task of leading the DC Metropolitan Police in their mission to hold the line at any cost.
I will also be having a specific member of the DC Metro Police to be playing as my character. I'll be
okay, they got to be
playing
careful
as-
here though, because a couple of these people killed themselves. So,
What, the DC police? Or-
yeah, like a couple of them that survived, like they survived, and they were like, obviously, like there's a lot of PTSD to go around because Trump was basically like, I'm not calling in the National Guard, and the DC police were like, we don't have orders to shoot these people.
Yeah.
Like we can't shoot these people, so we basically have like clubs and like mace, and they have everything else. And then it happened, and then no one got prosecuted, and they were like, man, what am I a cop for? And then just killed themselves because of that. Like they got like so depressed because the government didn't stick up for them for like defending the Capitol.
Well, there's only one hero unit for each side, and do you know if the head of the DC Metro Police was one of those people?
No.
Okay, then I think we should be okay.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know the
Glover
names of people.
From the DC
When was
Metro
this filmed?
Police, who, again,
I have no
the
idea.
person who was there
Okay.
that day.
This
How are
just
you
came
feeling
across my
about
TikTok
playing
page the other
as
day.
the Capitol Police as opposed to the rioters?
I was going to say, I'm feeling better about it than you are about being an insurrectionist. But I have to say, obviously, I mean, it's a game that's meant to have emotionally kind of challenging beats to it. But so I'll be interested to see how that's navigated. Obviously, I've got the questions about sort of police brutality, when to use force against protesters, against people trying to...
Oh yeah,
to
call
the
them
Capitol.
protesters.
The challenge
That's great.
was to include police officers that are no longer with us. That's something that we knew we needed to respect that sacrifice.
Okay, so he
but
did
in the end, we
acknowledge
thought
that.
not including them would do more disservice to their memory.
We will note here that Neil mentioned that the game was made with the support of some of the police officers present on the day.
Combat was essentially a roll-off between the teams. Each unit had a different value of dice, and your hero would add
Does
an
that guy have
extra
a
dice,
flamethrower?
as well
No,
as there
it's
being
a
one-time use
pepper
cards
gun.
that shook things up.
Literally, one of the ones I've got is deploy tear gas. was this
Oh, yeah, so they get these cards that are like actions that they can take to achieve their objective.
Okay. So it sounds like Catan, but with people.
Well, I mean, you're not getting resources.
But it's like a strategy. Like you got to kind of navigate moving around the board, and like
I mean,
Catan is really like
you
my
can-
own, like my big thing.
there
I
are
would
so
say this
many
sounds.
games where you can say it's a strategy game where you have to
But
navigate
that's-
moving around the board.
That's my thing. That's my thing is Catan and Wingspan, but you don't move in Wingspan.
I don't know what that is.
I'll have to teach you how to play Wingspan. You'll like it.
Okay.
It's a lot of birds.
A lot of birds.
Yeah, it's a game about birds.
quite a lot of debate about when it's ethical to use that. So I guess that's a debate I'll be having. The very next one is discharge your service firearm, which is a very sort of legally friendly way of saying shoot someone.
Use your concealed firearm to fight
Use
for
your
America.
concealed firearm in DC.
And then it all kicked off.
Patriots and defenders, citizens of this great nation, welcome to the fight for America.
Before playing, we were both asked to take our respective oaths. I swore allegiance to the Constitution and the rule of law, to defend everyone inside the Capitol building, whatever the cost. They made Izzy sing Proud of Your Boy, a deleted song from Disney's Aladdin.
I don't know it.
Oh, what? They didn't want to make her sing the white supremacist national anthem?
Yeah, I don't know if the Proud Boys have a theme song.
They probably
But
do, and I'm
this
willing
would-
to bet it's written by Blake Shelton.
That's fair, but this seems very apt.
Oh, speaking of Chris Pratt, he could have totally been at this because his brother's in the 3%er. 3%ers? 3%ers.
Those are the
So it's basically like Proud Boys
yeah
adjacent. It's
Yeah.
like difference between like the Tea Party and MAGA.
yeah
Same exact shit.
yeah. But also this song that was in Aladdin, I don't know why it got deleted, because if you take it out of the context of like these people playing as the Proud Boys singing a song where the lyrics are "Proud of Your Boy," and you just put it into a Disney movie, like I don't know why it was deleted. Maybe it
Okay.
just didn't fit. I've never heard of it before, but that was a fun little fact I learned. There was a deleted song aside from Arabian Nights.
I know it can't because it's racist because
Yeah.
Disney was not about that shit back in the 90s.
Pleasant surprise.
And I'm proud of you boys. Well done.
After that, the map of the Capitol was pulled apart to create 6 separate boards, and the game began. Fairly quickly, I realized that Izzy was having a way easier time of it. The sheer number of rioters was overwhelming, and I kept getting units pulled away to deal with bomb threats in other parts of the Capitol grounds. She was also being handed way more of those cards to use than I was, which I know is meant to represent the overwhelming odds police faced on the day. I'm still calling rigged. I did get a card for doing the
But-
YMCA at one point though, so I'll allow it.
He's at an advantage because the police won that day.
I mean, they let them into the Capitol. Oh, they didn't let them into the Capitol, but they
But
like
Mike Pence did not, in fact, get hung.
yeah. But they were at a disadvantage, I will say.
Oh, yeah. I mean, tactically, but like history has him at an advantage.
Yeah.
My first tactical blunder was when Izzy played a card allowing her to use a concealed firearm on one of my units, immediately removing it from the board.
Shots fired. Shots
Yeah, so she just
Then we
shoots
got
one of the
discard
cops.
service fire.
Jesus.
I retaliated by playing a card which fired my service weapon. Izzy fired back. I fired again. You get the picture.
Are you going to shoot back?
Yeah,
You're going to shoot back?
yeah.
And then Izzy, who had started the whole thing, got another card because she finally decided to be the bigger person and stop shooting.
So you get a card as your reward.
So a fucking in this game, a firefight breaks out between the Proud Boys and the DC police, and then the Proud Boys just stop shooting, and then they get rewarded for it.
I mean, that's kind of how it happened in real life. So
It's so insane.
Stop shooting.
Amazing. Violence
You
is
started it as well.
violence isn't the answer. That's all I'm saying.
Tell that to whoever pulled.
Maybe this is a lesson about the ethics of police brutality. Or maybe I should have volunteered to sing that stupid song at the start.
I'll step in here since Owen has gotten too mad to keep describing what happened, but to say it was one-sided would be an understatement. That initial gunfight had taken out a much bigger proportion of his available units than mine, leaving him with more gaps than a rundown high street. What was even better for me was that rioters from other tables
Uncle
started
Sam
to
in the
move their
background.
units over to ours. Owen now had to
Recording
contend with the
TikToks.
combined Proud Boy QAnon assault. He did occasionally receive reinforcements in the form of riot police from inside the Capitol, and at one point a group of journalists.
The mainstream media having arrived on the scene gives you a 4-dice tactical unit to use.
These broadcast journalists, as it turns out, were incredibly powerful, taking down 2 of my units. Oh my god, they got to radicalize.
That's what I'm saying.
Is that really what the job of the media is? To provide a sane and rational voice in this world full of radical opinions and extremism? What a beautiful tale. What are you doing behind me?
Nothing.
I made sure to respect the independence and sanctity of the press as a member of it myself. Gotta go. They've gotta go. I can't see any other...
I've never seen that before. Honest to God, that is.
This.
I want it on the record that Izzy has immediately chosen to attack the journalists when given the opportunity.
Now, despite some pretty lucky dice rolls from me, which did manage to remove a few rioters from the board, I had long since realized that this was a losing battle from the start.
11 points. And you've got 4.
Yeah.
Like the police officers on the day described, this had quickly become a case of how long could I delay the rioters from reaching the inside of the Capitol building. And less than 10 minutes before the end of the game,
Finally, under my guidance, the Proud Boys had breached the Capitol. I had gotten Owen down to a single unit of riot police left to guard the doors with their lives, and I was about to send a whole load of units into the building when...
Attention, patriots and defenders! The National Guard has arrived!
Yeah, a little bit different from reality.
Well, yeah. I mean, they should have also made part of the defenses thing that they had to evacuate the Capitol too, because that was one thing that police were like strained with, is they also had to work on evacuating 535 members of Congress and all their staff.
I mean, I'm sure they did, but it's a video. You can't mention like everything that happened in it because it was broken up into 7 different tables. But the dude that was controlling the police said he kept getting units pulled away to do like side quests, clearing bomb threats. And stuff like
then
that.
yeah, so that's probably what it was. That's crazy. I would play this.
Honestly, this does seem fun.
we then had to play the final minigame, finding Mike Pence inside a map of the Capitol building. Then came the twist. Every unit that got into the building got the rioters a dice. Each card that we still had on us was counted, and for each one we had, we received 1 die. Izzy obviously had a lot more than I did. We all rolled our dice as one big group, and each team's rolls were counted. Whoever ended up with the bigger number in total was the winner of the day.
It was the red team. The insurrectionists had successfully stormed the Capitol and found Mike Pence. And to be honest, incredibly disturbingly, the group voted pretty heavily in favour of hanging him, even though we were offered the chance to spare his life.
Well,
we incentivize you to win the game. We are pushing people to make ethical and moral choices that are in conflict with themselves.
I can't say it felt nice.
This reminds me, have you ever heard of that experiment where it was like, oh, this person is hooked up to this thing that will shock them.
I want you to put a pin in that.
Okay.
I want you to put a pin in that.
Okay.
It was then, of course, that we were hit with real-life clips of what actually happened on January 6th, 2021. They had documented each of the clashes that we had played out throughout the last few hours. All of the insurrectionists storming separate parts of the Capitol, injuring police officers and marching through the halls, many of them with the real-life intent to commit violence.
This, I've heard say, was the most well-recorded
It was 2020,
criminal
man.
act in human history.
These people don't believe in
I
COVID.
think it is important in what we're doing to tell an accurate history of what that...
Mind you, these fucking Brits stormed and burned DC not but 150 years before this.
Yeah.
Or 200 years, sorry.
But yeah, that was it about the game. The rest of it is just like stuff about January 6th.
They should do this with like everything. Like Pearl Harbor, do it. Run it back.
I was scrolling through TikTok and then I came across that and I was like, wait, what are they doing? A January 6th board game? And then I texted you and I was like, okay, you have to watch this.
Yeah, I would absolutely play that, but not purchase it. I would have to go somewhere. It looks too big.
And I hope you play this episode of the Learning Curve podcast multiple times. We're only 23 minutes in.
We should introduce ourselves.
I'm Bodhi, aka Shrinky Dink, aka what's the name of those patches that you put on pimples?
Pimple patches?
AKA hero patch, that's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I got one of those on right now.
Oh, okay. I'm choosing the side of the rioters.
You're choosing the side of the rioters?
I'm choosing the side of the rioters.
All right.
Okay. So
Are you proud of yourself, boy?
Such a cross this out. Proud. I'm so glad that you mentioned that experiment because I was reading an article about some horrific human experiments.
Hell yeah.
And so I compiled a list of 10 of the worst.
Oh, can I guess?
So
yes, some of these are.
Yes, but I'm going to tell you right now. So I did omit the one of the electric shock.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, essentially they basically had people administer people tests. So they had two people. One was like a test subject and one was also a test subject, but they were administering a fake test to someone. If they asked a question and the person that they were administering the test to got it wrong, they were told to shock them. And then each time they got a question wrong, it got increasingly like more and more. And the goal was to see how far someone would go. Eventually it got to the point where someone thought they killed someone.
Yeah.
I omitted that because it's so famous. It's like,
everyone knows about it.
Yeah. I also admitted like the human experiments in the concentration camps in Germany, just because, again, I'm not saying that's played out and that it's boring, but like it's widely known. These are kind of more, I would say, niche.
Okay.
Niche
you got
ones.
Stanford prison experiment on there?
It is on here, but it's only
one.
because I studied it for like a whole semester, so like it's on here, so I felt like it was good. But these are 10. I have them organized from objectively the worst to the best, like the least traumatizing, or like what I would prefer to be on versus absolutely not.
Okay.
If I had to be. So, do you have any guesses what are on here? I'll let you know if they are or not.
Well, the concentration camps and the Stanford prison experiments I thought would be on there.
Okay, so Stanford is on here, but the concentration camps aren't.
Some
of these have
anything to do with like Guantanamo Bay.
Interestingly enough, no.
Okay.
But the military is involved.
Okay.
There's someone here. I also omitted the Tuskegee experiment because, again, everyone kind of is aware of that.
Okay.
We know what went on with that. Some of these have some weird, funky names. So
you said military, the U.S. military giving meth to soldiers in Vietnam to make them fight better.
It is not. I'll tell you this. When I read about the military one, I kind of was like, holy shit. I thought the CIA was bad. I'll tell you this right now. It is ranked at number 6. So it's not.
So number 1 is the worst one, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, well, wait, hold on. Okay. It's backwards in my phone. So number 1 is like the least, but it's just because that's the order I'm reading them in, but I'm going from 10 to 1. So it'd be number 4 if it was number 6. I don't know.
Okay. Let's just get into it.
Okay. So the first one, number 10, is Northfield Labs artificial blood experiments.
Okay.
You ever heard of this one?
No.
Okay.
But it doesn't sound that bad.
Some of these have a lot more information and some of them are like kind of short and sweet. So this one is a shorter one. So Northfield was a research and development company that was founded in 1985, and it's most infamously known for developing artificial blood.
Okay.
The blood that they created, exactly what it sounds like. It's not human, it's fake blood, but it's supposed to act like real blood and be viable for transfusions, is named polyheme, like hemoglobin. Polyheme. Basically, in 2006, the FDA, they got the project so far along that the FDA actually gave them approval for them to test the blood in emergency rooms across the country. The issue, however, was that they were not telling people that they were doing this.
Fantastic.
So if you were like in a trauma surgery, they were just giving you fake blood. They announced it. Like they announced it on the news. Like I found like actual news broadcasts of them being like, oh, this new company, or not this new company, but this company is like doing this new project and it's nationwide. But they weren't like, because I mean, obviously, like if you're like, you know, just got shot, you're like dying, crashing on the cart.
Yeah, you can't really
They're not
consent
be like,
to fake blood.
Yeah, so they weren't telling people, but there's more situations that you can do transfusions in than trauma surgery. So
yeah, you can also just take blood out of somebody and then like
give them just a non-needed transfusion.
Yeah, like a blood donation type of thing. Like you take their real blood and they're like, hey, we're gonna supplement you with fake blood. It's something we're trying.
I think the idea is that it was supposed to be used in this setting. That's why it's an artificial blood, because you don't always have time to like if you're someone who is like if you have cancer, it's not necessarily always life and death that you need a transfusion right then and there.
Yeah, like
they can kind of schedule it out. But if you're like dying, you know, and you don't have A negative blood on you, then that's an issue. So there was that. Also, in 2006, the Wall Street Journal dug up information from a 2000 study on another experiment that they did with this blood, where they reportedly, this is all reported, there's no confirmation because the company refused to like corroborate the news story from the journal. It was reported that 10 heart surgery patients in that 2000 experiment had heart attacks after receiving the fake blood, the artificial blood, while anyone who was a placebo did not have a heart attack. So there was correlation but not causation because they weren't able to definitively like...
Yeah, I was about to say, can they prove that?
Well,
I mean, it is an insane...
The
like,
Northfield labs
10 to
covered it
9.
up. They didn't publish anything from the studies, so there was no way to do causation. They could only do correlation.
Yeah.
So Northfield denies that they ever tried to cover it up to begin with, but they didn't publish the study. They just stopped it midway through. They just said that they halted it because of declining enrollment. So they were like, "Oop, not enough people to kill."
Okay. So we don't have fake blood. This was not a successful project.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we don't have fake blood now. So
okay.
I also didn't know that like blood was like super hard to come by. I thought there would be a lot of people willing to do it. You get paid.
It depends. Well, there's not a lot of people, I think, that just donate blood to begin with. But out of the blood that is donated, the specific types of blood
that are needed,
like some are more in demand than others.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it just depends.
Yeah. So that was number 10. Nothing too crazy.
I think I want to say I saw something recently that was like they created a new blood type, or a new blood type was discovered.
Oh, it might be like a subcategory.
It might be
of the universal recipient, because I think I saw something about that too.
What was it?
Because I know that there's like subtypes of all the categories.
Yeah, there's A, B, and then O, and then positive, negative, depending on which protein you have on your blood molecule. Was it just... They said that just one old French lady has it. But I thought they like made a new blood type.
I mean, they can take that blood and like... That is literally the plot of the new Jurassic World movie, believe it or not.
Guada negative. That's what the blood
Guada
type
negative.
is called. Yeah. Why not like C?
Okay. Ran out of letters.
I guess.
Okay. Well, yeah. So that's number 10. I wouldn't want to have the artificial blood put in me, but I just think it's wild that the FDA just granted them blanket access to every emergency room in the country.
Yeah, like do some fucking experiments and testing
let's
first.
Keep it concentrated first.
Yeah.
You know?
Killed 10 people with heart attacks before you put it into emergency rooms.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, number 9, the monster study. So this was an experiment on stuttering, which is why it's number 9, because it's not like physical, but it is. It was performed in Davenport, Iowa, so we're already off to a horrific start, because who wants to be in Davenport, Iowa, in 1939. It was performed on 22 orphaned children. They were just...
No better candidates for experimentation.
Ripping them right out of the orphanages. It was conducted by Wendell Johnson through the University of Iowa, and one of his grad students, Mary Tudor. The study was never published and was only uncovered by an investigative reporter.
Okay.
Because of kind of how bad things went. So the intent of the experiment was to induce stuttering in non-stuttering children.
Why?
Because they wanted to study like behavioral therapy. So the way that they were going to do this was...
Wait, so they wanted to give them stuttering so they could make them better?
No. So it was a study on behavioral therapy. Like behavioral, like to see if they can induce a certain behavior. I don't know why they chose stuttering, but the way that they were going to do it was by simply telling them that they stuttered. Just gaslighting them.
That's so... Honestly, this one's kind of funny.
So out of 256 possible candidates that they identified, all were screened and giving a speaking score of 1 to 5. I don't know if it was like 1 being the best or 5 being the best, but they were given a score. And they ended up with 22 children total. 10 of them were already stutterers and 12 were non-stutterers. In the group... in the stutterer group, half of them were told that they speak fine. So even if they stuttered, they would go see a therapist, and therapist would be like, no, there's nothing wrong with you.
Interesting.
You don't have a stutter. What are you fucking talking about?
They're just gaslighting both sides.
Well, 5 were told that they did not speak eloquently and received like more intense therapy for stuttering.
Okay, so they split the stuttering group in half, try to fix half of them. And then
Yeah,
left
so
the other
you
half
had to have like,
alone,
it's kind of
essentially.
what are the Punnett squares?
Yeah.
It's like one of those.
Okay.
In the non-stutterer group, 6 of them, so half of them, were told that their speech was horrible. So they were just speaking normally, and they're like, "You fucking bitch, why are you stuttering?" And that they were beginning to stutter when they were talking, and that they must correct the behavior immediately, and not to speak unless it was without a stutter. So they just said, "Stop talking unless you can't stutter."
Dude, these kids are gonna come out with like an Eastern European accent for whatever reason.
There's another language one where that kind of happens.
Oh my god.
Okay, so and then the other 6 were told that they spoke fine, and they were all complimented. So these were people who did speak without a stutter, and they were told, you don't have a stutter, you're good. So they were just telling the truth. In the second group, the ones where there was no stuttering at all, but half of them were being told that they did, they actually were able to convince the kids that they did have stutters. Like the kids started believing them, and the kids actually began to refuse to talk, and they all flunked out of school.
So they didn't induce stuttering. They just made the kids shut up.
Yeah, well, they convinced them that they had a stutter.
Yeah, but they didn't induce stuttering.
Correct. Some of them did develop a stutter, but not all of them.
Okay.
Basically all of the ones that they convinced had like lifelong psychological impacts that were never rectified because the study was never published. So the University of Iowa couldn't come behind and like pay for like any kind of like reparation therapy. And so by the time, this is the whole thing. So apparently the grad student did try to like give them like behavioral therapy to like fix the stuttering, but it just didn't go anywhere because there was no funding for it because the study was never published. And by the time that anyone found out about this, like all of them were dead because this was in like the 30s.
So they just fucked up the lives of 3 kids and then peaced out?
6 kids.
6 kids
6
and then
kids,
peaced
yeah.
out?
Yeah. Well, and the kids who did stutter and were told that they stutter. Like pretty much everyone except for
those guys also shut up?
Pretty much everyone except the group that did not have a stutter and were told that they did not have a stutter had like lifelong psychological impacts because of the way they were treated. Because the stuttering group that were told you don't have a stutter just thought they were fine, but then they stuttered and then they like struggled to get through school. The people that were stuttering and told that they stuttered got like extreme therapy, so that's like traumatic, and then the people who weren't stuttering were being gaslit to hell. So like it was just fucked up for 18 students, or I don't know, 16 students. So basically by the time anyone heard of this, most of the orphans were already dead because it was so late on. The ethics of this is that the University of Iowa had no idea that this experiment took place. They just straight up walked in and took these orphans. Pretty much kidnapped them. Any survivors that were still alive at the time that this experiment got uncovered did receive a settlement, but again, this was in the 30s and it got uncovered in like the 80s, 90s. So they're on their deathbed and they're like, here's a couple $1,000.
And they couldn't even say thank you.
Couldn't without stuttering. So that was
so upsetting.
That was the monster study. I don't know why it's called the monster
insane.
study.
The monster study.
I don't know why it's called the monster study.
The name of it.
I would be severely upset if someone gave me a stutter because I've seen people stutter and it seems like it's a very frustrating experience to like work through. There was a guy on the most recent season of Survivor who has a stutter, and you can like tell that like after like halfway through he was just like really struggling because he was like mentally exhausted and he couldn't like do his like therapy things, like his little tics that you have to do to like, you know, control the stutter.
Yeah. A little side note, when we had first started this podcast, you were actually stuttering a little bit, but over time it's gotten better.
It's because you told me that I didn't stutter. Okay, so number 8. Yeah, number 8. Nadine Cool and false memory implantation. So
I not done on humans, but I know about memory erasing in rats.
yes,
And I wonder if this is connected.
it probably is. So
Does it have anything to do with light?
no.
Okay. How they erase memories in rats is they'll like send them through a maze and they know like, oh, if I step here, it's a dead end or whatever. They'll like kind of peel back the top of them and they'll stick probes in their brain that like flashes lights into their memory area and disturbs the synapses in those areas and then just like disconnects them essentially. And then they'll send them in the maze again and like the rats that they didn't do that to will go through it fine because they know the way. But then the ones that they did do that to had to relearn the maze.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's ridiculously like cruel. I don't know. Okay, so false memory implantation is a type of therapy or like a type of experiment, but Nadine Cool is like the example I'm using here because the story is kind of like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So false memory implantation is like already a thing. I'm just using a specific story here. I do need to give a warning that from here on out that these all take like a really, really dark turn, and I just could sit here and list all the trigger warnings, but it would take me like 20 minutes. Okay. So if you have a trigger warning to anything graphic, just stop now.
Just mute it, minimize the window, let it keep playing.
Yeah, this one is specifically for sexual abuse. I'll give you that. So this took place in 1986. Nadine Cool was a nurse's aide in Wisconsin, and she sought therapy from a psychiatrist to help with a traumatic event that was experienced by her daughter. So she was bringing her daughter to a psychotherapist to like do whatever that needed to be done.
Okay.
At some point, for whatever reason, Cool was brought into the therapy herself, which is a common practice. Usually like therapists will want to talk to like parents or whatever to, you know, help whatever. And the psychiatrist ended up using hypnosis and was unable to recover a repressed memory of abuse that she had allegedly suffered. This abuse was sexual and physical in nature. So she kind of was able to uncover like a repressed memory, which traumatic, but good to work through. But it didn't end there. Over the course of all these sessions, Nadine Cool became convinced that she had uncovered a number of repressed memories, including being in a satanic cult, eating babies, being sexually assaulted, forced bestiality, and being forced to watch murders. So she became convinced that she actually was remembering these things. These sessions also caused her to find out that she had, quote, 120 personalities hidden inside of her, including children's, adults, angels, and even a duck.
Damn, so she got hypnotized into split personality disorder. That's crazy.
Yep. So the psychiatrist went on to, over the course of all these sessions, try and continue to uncover these repressed memories, and even went so far as to perform an exorcism on her.
Love it when my therapist exercises me.
Straight up said, we're going back to Catholicism. So essentially what happened is Cool was being implanted with false memories. The psychiatrist was just suggesting things to her while she was under hypnosis, and she was believing them.
That's crazy.
So that they could continue to charge her money for the therapy sessions. False memories are completed by taking accessible information and running with it. So in this case, because Cool was able to uncover that repressed memory of being physically and sexually assaulted, which was a real thing that actually happened to her. The therapist,
you were like physically and sexually assaulted at a satanic cult.
Yes, the therapist started kind of running with it because there's like a plausible thing of like, what is the context of this? And so Cool was seeking therapy for her daughter's traumatic experience and uncovered a credible traumatic experience for herself. So the therapist just kept going. The motives in this case weren't really clear because of the settlement, because once you settle, you can't really talk about stuff. But Nadine Cool did get a settlement, but it kind of aligns with the theory of the whole, like, you know, profiting.
Yeah, like therapists don't want you to make.
They don't want you
better.
to. Yeah. Not to speak ill on therapists, but that's just kind of the running theory. And then there's also just unethical research, because some people want to just do unethical research.
Yeah, that's insane.
This one I would not be very fond. Like the stuttering one I could live with. The artificial blood one I could maybe live with if I don't have a heart attack and die. This one I would be like imagine you're like, oh man, my grandpa died in a car accident and I'm really sad about it. And then all of a sudden you're getting fucking gangbanged at a satanic cult. Like it just doesn't sound like the most ideal one.
I would be so pissed off if I woke up one day and I was a duck. I'd be like,
you gotta eat worms.
Yeah, just shit in my bed, and then I wake up the next day and I'm me again, and I'm like, what the fuck happened?
I would allow it only if I could get the waterproof. Like I can go take a shower and get real cozy in the water, just beat up on my skin, and then I can kind of do a little shake.
You would try to fly and you would like jump off a building or something.
I would probably end up at that dumpling restaurant that we went to.
Hanging in the
slowly rotating
mirror
with my fat dripping off me. Okay, this next one's called Frederick's experiment. So this is a form of a language deprivation experiment. So this is kind of going back to the stuttering one. So there's not a lot of record on this one because this was done in the Holy Roman Empire.
Hell yeah.
But the Emperor Frederick II believed that Hebrew would have been the first language.
Okay.
Like humans' first language.
Okay.
Because he's going off the Bible. And so he wanted to know what language God would have imparted on Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Because no one really thinks of that. That Adam and Eve were the first two humans in the Bible. And they just had a language.
I mean, when I read the Bible, they were speaking English. So.
Right, exactly. But no one ever thinks about what they would have... Because the Bible's translated. The English Bible is translated because the original Bible would have been written in Latin or Hebrew.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the OG one was Latin.
And so basically Frederick II was like, Hebrew, goated, probably that one. So he basically encouraged, and back in the Holy Roman Empire, encouraged was more of a mandate. He encouraged all the mothers in his empire to do everything that they would normally do for newborn babies, but do not speak to them or around them at any point to determine if language was innate in humans or if it was imparted.
Okay.
So he basically was like, do not talk to them and do not like let them know that you can talk and see what they just develop. There was no reported results from this because obviously it was back in the Holy Roman Empire, but
I mean, I can tell you what the results are.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But the experiment was reportedly recreated in like medieval times where there was better record keeping. And allegedly the kids started speaking Hebrew. By some divine right, the kids just started spouting the word of the big Hebrew guy.
I mean, if you leave a child alone, like it never hears any word ever.
It becomes mute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it becomes like a fucking psychopath too, because like talking to a kid is a very important part of like developing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the voice crack. That was the Frederick experiment. I think this one's particularly cruel because of that aspect, because you know that the kids were just like being like mentally fucked up.
I mean, did this guy also not know about the whole Tower of Babylon thing?
Like, I remember correctly, the Roman emperors were like very like self-centered and like thought that they just knew everything, and any information that was like given, that's like why the empire fell.
Yeah. Well, do you know about the Tower of Babylon?
I know what it is. I know that it was in hashtag Iraq.
Yeah, it was a tower that like stretched all the way up to the heavens, quote unquote. And the whole thing with it was a center for humanity to like pull knowledge and then try to reach the height of God. And then God saw it, didn't like it, smited the building, and then fractured human language into all of the different languages that we have now.
Hard.
Huh?
Hard.
Yeah. So whatever language...
Was that a Bible thing? Was the Tower of Babylon Bible?
Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever language... Oh, shit, what was that? Whatever language we were speaking before this whole Tower of Babylon thing happened, just doesn't exist anymore because it was a combination of every language that we have today.
Do you know the backstory of the minions?
The little yellow guys?
Yeah.
No.
They've been around since the dawn of time, and they always gravitate towards the most evil person on the planet.
Oh.
And
so
the
Hitler had a bunch of minions at
So
one
that's
point?
the whole thing, is that they were conveniently frozen in the Arctic.
during the Holocaust.
During the Holocaust, because they didn't want to allude to the fact. But my point is that the minion language is a combination of like 5 different languages. So I'm wondering if the Illumination, the people at Illumination Animation Studios are onto something here. Is there a 5th Minion movie coming out?
The minions
in which
are
the
seeking
minions
the Tower of Babylon.
Were derived from the Tower of Babylon when God struck it down. Okay, moving on. This one's called the Little Albert.
Minions were conveniently frozen in the Arctic during the Holocaust.
Not during Vietnam, though.
Not
or
during
Korea,
Vietnam.
or 9/11, or the OKC bombing, or Ted Bundy, or Jeffrey Dahmer, or the Zodiac killings, but definitely during Hitler. Not during Napoleon. Okay, next one's called the Little Albert Experiment. Let me see. This one is like definitely involving children. So
Yeah, I feel like I've heard this one before. I don't remember what it is, though.
This one has rats in it, so I'm coming back to your little rats one. Okay, so this took place in the mid-20th century. This was meant to test conditioning in humans. It was conducted by John B. Watson from Johns Hopkins University and his graduate student, Rosalie Rayner. So a lot of just like male professors and their unknowing, quote-unquote, female assistants. Basically, they hypothesized that they could condition fear into innate objects, or fear of innate objects and stimuli into children. So they could make children afraid of something that is like would otherwise not be something that you would be afraid of.
Me chasing my cat with the vacuum to keep it out of the office.
Exactly. So they selected a 9-month-old baby from the hospital and gave him the pseudonym of Albert because, you know, ethics.
Thank God they're being ethical.
Thank God.
About time we had some ethical experiments on children.
Then they proceeded to reproduce Pavlov's experiment. So they literally just did that. So basically, they gave a baseline test where the child was exposed to a white rat, a rabbit, a dog, a monkey, and masks that had no hair on them. I don't know what that entails. I don't know if they were like, hey...
Masks don't have hair to begin with.
I don't know if they were like, hey, here's a shiesty. Like, I don't know if they were like, here's the Mike Myers masks from Baby Driver. I just know it said that there was no hair. He was also... the baby was also exposed to cotton, wool, and newspapers, and just a bunch of other stimuli that would not necessarily be something you'd be afraid of. And it was recorded that there was no fear shown. For the experiment, they placed the baby on a mattress and let him play with a white rat. Whenever he touched it, Rayner and Watson would make a loud sound by striking a steel bar with a hammer behind the child.
Just giving the child fucking, what is it called? Tinnitus?
Tinnitus, yeah, I got that. Eventually, the baby began to show fear and refused to touch the rat and would cry whenever he saw it. Eventually, the test caused the child to become so afraid of this sound that it had a negative reaction to anything white and fluffy. So they showed it a rabbit, it was scared of it, a white dog, scared of it, a seal, scared of it, and even a Santa Claus mask, scared of it. Anything that was white and fluffy, it was scared of. So there was a number of ethical concerns with this, obviously, that Watson and Rayner made their conclusions about conditioning fear based off of just this kid. So they were like, yep, we could do it. We did it with this one kid.
I mean, I feel like that's a fair assumption.
You gotta have replication. That's like the 8th step of the scientific method is replication.
Yeah, but how many babies you want them to fuck up?
Well, let's continue. So there was also no control group. The control group was the experiment, which is like in itself not great. You can't have someone be the control and the actual like test subject.
Mm-hmm.
After Albert left the hospital, the grad student, much like in the other one, pondered how to desensitize Albert, but ultimately just chose to just not do nothing. Just was like, that's fine.
Yeah, not my kid.
Yeah. Allegedly, as they never discovered who the true identity of this kid was, they ID'd the kid later on. Like, there was an alleged, like, you know, there was like never a published thing about who this kid was.
Mm-hmm.
And found out that his mother worked in the building where this experiment was taking place at, like the hospital. And she had no idea that the experiments were being conducted on her kid.
Hell
So
yeah.
they just straight up kidnapped a kid and did this. However, there are reports disputing that it's this particular mom, this particular person's kid. But it is, they pretty much have come to the consensus that they would have had to source the kid from the hospital. So they just plucked a kid right out of the hospital. So this kid obviously was big enough to like sit up on a mattress. So clearly like some kid in like the NICU just plucked a cancer-ridden kid out of its bed and was like, you're going to fucking play with this rat and I'm going to strike this steel bar behind you. But yeah, this is a little Albert experiment. I think it's particularly horrific that they were just like, should we fix this kid? Nah.
I mean, that's normally how it goes. They just fuck up someone's life and then dip. But I feel like it also wasn't an experiment that needed to happen because we know conditioning. We know how it works.
Well, this was in the
based
mid
off-
20th century. So this was like 1950. This was...
Yeah, we know conditioning. We know how it works based off Pavlov's experiment.
Yeah, that's the whole
Like-
thing is he was just like, I'm just going to redo Pavlov's experiment, but no dogs.
Yeah.
Just humans now. Okay, so this is the military one.
Okay.
This is Operation Sea Spray. This one I was very like... on its
I feel
face...
like these names I've heard before, but I can't remember what they are.
This one is bad. I think this is actually bad. It on its face value, when I start reading stuff out, you're not going to think it's bad, but when you think about like the context of it, it's bad. Okay. So Operation Sea Spray was an experiment conducted by the United States military, mainly the Army and the Navy, in which they wanted to test the effectiveness of biochemical weapons. So in major cities. So they chose San Francisco in 1950 as their test location for this. The actual experiment was conducted by the Navy, and then the Army wrote up the report. The Navy sought to determine how vulnerable a major city like San Francisco would be to a chemical attack. So from September 20th to September 27th, 1950, the U.S. Navy released Serratia marcescens, I think that's how it's pronounced, which is a bacteria that thrives in cold, wet environments and is often caught in hospitals, making it a hospital-acquired infection, or an HAI. Sorry. This particular bacteria usually manifests in the respiratory and urinary tracts for adults and the gastrointestinal systems of children. The U.S. Navy also released Bacillus globigii, I think is how it's pronounced. There's a lot of I's in this one, which is a surrogate for anthrax in research and testing. So it spreads very similarly to anthrax. It's not known to cause illness in healthy people, but can cause infections in anyone that is immunocompromised. So old people, children, sick people. And it was originally a bacteria that didn't exist because it was produced in Fort Detrick.
So what? They were like, okay, we want to see how vulnerable San Francisco is to a chemical attack. So let's do a chemical attack.
Right. So instead of being like, okay, let's make an innocuous powder.
Yeah.
Where we can track the particles, the one that will not harm the public.
Yeah.
And we'll sit outside on fucking Alcatraz and open the vial and blow it and see if, anyone can, if we can, detect it up at like Mission Hill or whatever. They were like, we're going to release actual strains of bacteria out into the air, one of which is a surrogate for anthrax.
Also, how are they like testing the effectiveness of the spread? Is it like every street corner they're blood testing
So
people?
we're going to get to that because right now we're just at the September 20th to 27th. So the second bacteria, like I said, was not an actual bacteria found in nature. It was manufactured at Fort Detrick, which do you know what Fort Detrick is?
I'm assuming it's a military base.
You know the ending of Indiana Jones, where they have like the warehouse scene,
Which one?
like where they're like
No,
wheeling.
which Indiana Jones?
I think it's like the very first one. I want to say Raiders.
Oh,
It's like they're in a warehouse and there's like a bunch of boxes and they're like storing a box in there, and it pans out to show like a giant warehouse with a bunch of boxes.
I think that was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but yeah.
Okay, either way, that ending of that Indiana Jones movie, it's essentially that. Fort Detrick is where they do research on like all biochemical weapons. So anthrax, anything is like researched there. Like quite literally, like you could probably bomb that place and wipe out the entire United States because it would like spread just unknown levels of things. Like there's like so many experiments happening there.
Lovely.
So after the release window, the Army comes in. And they set up study locations in 43 different parts of the city and concluded that San Francisco had received enough bacteria, so they tested the air, to have all 800,000 residents inhale at least 5,000 particles of bacteria, which was on par with how anthrax spreads. So essentially they're saying that San Francisco is extremely vulnerable to an anthrax spread if you just sit on the water and...
Yeah. Who would have fucking thought?
Who would have thought?
An airborne particle. Let's release it in the spot where all the air blows into the city and then see if it affects people.
Famously cool place because of the winds.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no shit, right? So now here's the issue. By October 11th, 11 residents have checked into Stanford Hospital with very serious and very rare urinary tract infections. Now remember that first bacteria manifests in the respiratory and urinary tract for adults. So 10 made full recoveries, but one patient named Edward J. Nevin had just had prostate surgery, and the bacteria traveled to his heart and it caused him to have a heart valve infection, and he unfortunately passed away 3 weeks later. So the U.S. Navy just straight up killed a guy. Stanford Hospital also noticed a very serious spike in cases of pneumonia in the area, but they were unable to link Operation Sea Spray to it because it was like a correlation, not a causation kind of thing. And then there was no evidence released by any parties. So the Army or any authority in San Francisco in which the military contacted the San Francisco Health Board and said, hey, we're going to be doing this experiment. So they just did this. They just did this. There was no like communication with anyone. They were just like, we're going to do it. Nevin's family ended up suing after a Senate subcommittee got a hold of this experiment and ripped it to shreds because, they didn't know that this was happening either. But the courts ruled against them because they lacked the causation. It actually ended up going to the Supreme Court, and they even declined to overturn the lower court's ruling of them saying they lack standing. So they were just like, yep, your guy died. Oh, well.
That's crazy. Like, he had anthrax, but you can't trace it back to the U.S. Navy.
He didn't have anthrax. He had a surrogate for anthrax that was just a bacteria, like a very curable bacteria, but he was immunocompromised, so he died. Like,
yeah.
That's insane to me. Just like, they should do that in Chicago instead of dyeing the river green.
Just release anthrax.
Release anthrax. Release the green anthrax. Okay, the next one is called the Cincinnati Radiation Experiments.
Lovely. Oh, was this the one where they had the like big ass microwave in the back of the van and then they shot it at people to see if it would give them like if they would react to it? No? Okay.
It's a lot worse.
Okay.
So the Cincinnati radiation experiments took place from 1960 to 1971. Not a great thing when an experiment takes 11 years.
Yeah.
Usually not a sign of something good happening.
I mean, you have long-term experiments, I guess.
Well, with radiation, you don't get a lot of long-term things. So it took place at the Cincinnati General Hospital, which is now the University of Cincinnati Hospital. It was led by radiologist Eugene L. Singer, and the experiment was funded by the Department of Defense. And the purpose was to determine how soldiers would be affected by large doses of radiation.
Fair enough.
So a little bit of backstory on this. In 1958, so a couple years before the experiment, Singer wrote a grant proposal titled, quote, Metabolic Changes in Humans Following Total Body Radiation, to the DoD. The DoD was skeptical at first, but they eventually caved and gave Sanger an 11-year contract to just research.
To just radiate people?
Just research.
Cool.
Patients were selected by cancer diagnosis. They had to have advanced stage cancers, any type would do. And they had to be in good nutritional standing, and they could not have been previously treated with radiation.
Okay.
I don't really think that soldiers in the trenches are in good nutritional standing, so I don't really see the point of that bar to clear. But sure. It was controversial because it was reported that the patients were specifically, who were specifically referred, had forms of cancer that would have been resistant to radiation.
Cool.
So they were just like, we're going to try this, even though we know
it's not going
to work.
Yeah.
Basically, and this is kind of where I had to I tried to look it up, but it's kind of confusing because of the way it's measured. But typically patients were given between 25 and 300 rad of cobalt-60 total, and for total and partial body radiation. 300 rad, from what I understand, is considered dangerous, but it's not necessarily lethal. It's kind of just like a, don't do that kind of thing. We're not talking Chernobyl here. Bone marrow was sometimes removed prior to radiation to transfuse back in to them to elevate the symptoms for survivors, or to alleviate, the symptoms for survivors. If you know anything about bone marrow transplants, it's like one of the most painful things that you can go through.
Yeah, they got to break your bone open and take it out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the needle, just crazy.
Yeah.
So the side effects of these experiments were nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, emaciation, hemorrhaging, fatigue, cognitive impairment, and hallucinations.
So just radiation poisoning symptoms.
Yeah, so basically they were giving these people radiation poisonings. Within the first month of this 11-year-long experiment, 21 patients have died. That's 25% of all of them had died within 2 months, and 75% of them died within a year.
And this was just year one?
This was just year one.
This guy will be a prolific killer.
Well, that's the whole thing, is they only got 89 total people over the 11 years. So they killed 75% of those people. What is that? 56 almost? 57 people in a year. Just straight up just shot it into them. I think if I read correctly... Oh, yeah. Let's see. So that 300 upper limit of 300 rad of cobalt-60, right?
Mm-hmm.
Normally, like I said, it's not considered lethal, but the reason that they died is because they were given it continuously. And the measurement was, it was about the equivalent of 20,000 chest x-rays within the span of a few hours.
Yeah, if you get close to high levels of radiation, like around that 300 rad number, as long as you're not around it for 5 minutes, you'll be fine. You might feel a little bit tired afterwards, but you'll survive. The longer you stand near there, the more radiation your body is absorbing, and the higher chances of things like cancer developing in your later years, or you actually get radiation poisoning and your skin falling off will happen.
I kind of want to experience radiation poisoning just to know what it feels like. Because it's crazy that there's nothing around you. You can't see it, but you just start feeling sick and your skin starts blistering. And
do you know what radiation does to your body?
I know, that's what I'm saying, is it's just, in a morbid curiosity way, I want to, it mind boggles me that this invisible force that you cannot see just makes you sick. You're just sitting there and you could just get sick because of something that's radioactive next to you.
Yeah,
it's not a glowing object. The elephant's foot in Chernobyl is not glowing. It's just it just looks like sludge.
Yeah, I'm cool.
I don't actually want to be irradiated. If you're listening to anyone who has access to that, but in a morbid way, I think it would be fascinating to experience just chilling and just all of a sudden
and just clumps of your hair fall out.
Yeah,
and then,
it's just
your skin starts peeling off of your muscles.
Just in a morbid way. So at the end of the experiment, they ended up floating the idea of increasing it to 600 rad, but decided not to because it was lethal.
Yeah,
So they're like, we don't want to outright kill these people. We'll
them
wait
to
2 months
suffer.
to a year. But yeah, that was the Cincinnati radiation experiments. I think that's particularly cruel just because of the fact that like you're taking cancer patients who typically turn to radiation to cure their disease and saying like, oh, we could help you.
And then just blasting them until they die.
And then just throwing them into a Chernobyl nuclear reactor and just calling it a day. Okay, so next we have our Stanford prison experiment.
I love this one.
So I studied this one as a criminal. They make you study this when you do criminal justice.
Yeah.
So I have a couple notes here, but I can take the rest and just do it off of memory because that's like the first thing they teach you in grad school is don't do this. So it's a controversial psychological prison experiment from August 1971. It was designed to be a 2-week immersive experiment by Stanford psychology professor Philip Zimbardo. So the other name for this is the Zimbardo experiments. But the Stanford prison experiment it's like big name. Participants were recruited from the local community with advertisements, and they were offered to be paid about $15 a day, which was actually quite high. I don't know what the conversion is for that today, but I think it's like over $100 a day, which is pretty good. At the end or at the start of the experiment, they had 24 participants, and they were each assigned either guard or prisoner. So the purpose of the experiment was to see like power dynamics play out, to see if giving someone a ceremonial role of power would be like innately corrupting to them. So the only instructions given to the participants were if you are a prisoner, you are to obey the guards. And if you are guards, you are to maintain control of the prisoners. And it just quickly devolved into like the guards stripping the people, beating the people, starving the people, like mentally abusing the people, physically abusing the people. Like it just got so out of hand that they wanted to stop the experiments. There was conflicting forces of whether or not they wanted people to actually stop it, like the people that were conducting the research. But people were getting hurt. Like bones were getting broke, teeth were getting knocked out, and they ended up having to stop the experiment. But the guards kind of like didn't want it to stop because they put the badge on and immediately just rolled their eyes back in their head like a great white shark and started beating the prisoners. And the prisoners revolted. It was a whole thing. The movie's actually really good. If you've ever watched it. It's a really good movie. Unfortunately, Ezra Miller's in it, but he's one of the people that gets beat. So count your losses. That's all I'm saying.
The Stanford prison experiment is like always been so fascinating to me because it was just like random people on the street. They didn't recruit like previous prison guards or previous prisoners or anything. It was just like a bunch of random people.
That's the whole point is would an inherent like position of power innately corrupt someone?
And they put the badge on and immediately they just started like, it wasn't like a slow burn over the course of the experiment. It was like almost instantly.
It was within, I think, the first couple days.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they weren't told to do this. They were simply told maintain control over the prisoners. The prisoners were not revolting. The prisoners were like, you know, whatever. But they just like immediately started beating people.
Yeah. Which I wish there was a further study done into the people they recruited to be guards.
I'm sure there was.
And okay, well,
I'm sure there was.
But like, I wonder if
like why they did it.
Yeah, like a pre-experiment interview and like a post-experiment interview being like, okay, what do you know about prisons? Like, what are your thoughts on like authoritative figures like cops and guards and shit like that?
Yeah,
I want to know what their thoughts were going into it. If they like already had that predisposition to, if they got placed in control of somebody, be abusive, or and then like a further study into their life, like do they have a wife at home that they're beating? Like
probably 40% of the participants.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to know more, Google 40% and cop.
Yeah. But it's always something that's so fascinating to me because it's just like it just happened. The prisoners were being prisoners. They were like being very submissive to the guards, and the guards were just beating the fuck out of them.
Well, and the thing is they weren't really told what everything was for.
Yeah.
They were kind of just told, like, we just need to see.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on. So, there's that. Okay. we're on our last two here. So this is called the Aversion Project. Lots of trigger warnings on this one. Too many to name. Just everything. This is a real bad one. These last two are real bad. So this was a medical torture experiment out of South Africa. Shocking. South Africans doing torture by Aubrey Levin. Red flag, a man named Aubrey. Too many men named Aubrey out here doing evil things.
That's two, at least.
It's two of them. The goal was to weed out gay soldiers, both men and women, and cure them in the South African army.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little bit of history. In apartheid South Africa, there was dual policies on homosexuality. Career soldiers were not allowed to be gay, but conscripts were, which was interesting.
That kind of reminds me of what Turkey's policy is on homosexuality in the army. Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
They're fine with it as long as you are the top. Like, if you're bottoming for somebody, they don't allow you in the army.
So you gotta, like, go outside the army to have sex.
If you're bottoming, they just don't let you in the army. They're fine if you're topping, but they think getting
penetrated.
Yeah, getting topped is that's the gay part.
Damn. Imagine them stalking your Grindr profile.
They're like, topping somebody is fine, but getting topped, that's where we draw the line.
That can backfire. A lot of people say they're tops and they're not.
Yeah.
Okay. So it took place between 1971 and 1989. Officials thought that banning homosexuality from the military would give an out to young white men to avoid serving. So they could basically be like, oh no, I'm gay, you can't conscript me. Like, you know, because the thing is that I would assume that much like America today, career people in the military in South Africa were probably, for them, black people.
Mm-hmm.
Much like it is just disadvantaged people here in the US, which happen to be people of color, but like any poor community really. So the idea is that like they could give an out to the white people that they were conscripting in times of conflict and make it so that it was only, you know. And so basically it was like the bone spurs thing with Trump, like, oh no, I'm gay, you can't conscript me.
Mm-hmm.
Love men, just big white cock. And so white men wouldn't have to join, but then they could conscript black men to go die for them, right? Back in this time, homosexuality was considered a psychological illness because this is during the era of DSM-3. Gay men conscripted during this time were subjected to compulsion shock therapy, castration, and other forms of torture. They were given visual stimulations of men versus women and like basically like shocked if they had the wrong reaction. So if you weren't horny enough, if you were a gay guy and they sat you down and they were like, look at this girl rub her pussy.
They show you a picture of a dude.
Yeah,
they show you his balls. You get bricked and they tase you.
Yeah, and then if you, but also if they showed you like a girl like, you know, rubbing her pussy and you were like not horny at all, they were like, shock.
Isn't this like the same shit that Mike Pence was accused of doing?
Supporting.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously more often than not these failed because conversion therapy, it doesn't actually work.
Yeah.
It's just it's essentially the same thing that they were doing with the little Albert kid.
Yeah.
When the original experiments failed, however, the army turned to sexual realignment procedures to solve the issue.
What does that mean?
It
like
means forced gender reassignment surgery. So they're like, oh, you're a gay guy, you want that dick in you so bad, you're now a woman.
Insane.
So it's like the most like anti-woke thing ever. They were like, we're fine with trans people. By God, be trans, but do not be gay. Like, I don't know. It's just, that sounds awful. Just like,
yeah.
I mean, everything that South Africa did in the 20th century is awful, but like,
yeah,
just crazy. So supposed lack of evidence that this type of like sexual realignment was ineffective actually led them to remove the homosexuality from the DSM.
Wait.
So
repeat that again. You said the reassignment.
The reassignment was it didn't work.
Oh.
It wasn't
okay.
the people that they forced to reassign were like, no, I'm still a guy, or I'm still a girl, and I still am gay, or I'm still lesbian.
Yeah.
And it basically forced the APA to remove homosexuality from the DSM. So South Africa kind of forced that, which is I guess a quote unquote silver lining, not really silver, but a positive that came out of all this.
Yeah.
But that's kind of crazy to me. Okay. Last one, the one that I consider to be the worst, is Unit 731, which is a concentration camp, but it is not a German concentration camp. This is a Japanese concentration camp.
In Japan or here when we were putting Japanese in camps?
Neither.
Okay.
It's in China.
Okay.
So the reason I put this on here is because I see a lot of discourse all the time about the atom bombs and oh, we use the atom bombs and the US is unnecessarily cruel to Japan. There was no reason. And I fully agree that we should have not dropped the nukes. I don't think that
nuking a civilian population.
I have to stress that I do not support nuking civilian populations or anyone really. I don't think that nukes solve things other than just having a big stick. But there
was an alien ship. Would you try to nuke it?
No.
Okay.
Because what if we get the total body irradiation and they release anthrax and then whenever I hear criticisms of the US dropping nukes on Japan, it comes with this sentiment that the Japanese in World War II were some innocent country that was invaded for no reason whatsoever.
No, yeah, the Japanese were fucking awful.
The Japanese, and look. The same way that I say I hate Iran's government, but not the Iranian people, I do hate the Japanese government from World War II. I can't speak to the Japanese people in World War II, but I would assume it would be the same thing, that not all Japanese people were
Imperial Japan was fucking
horrific.
But
I do need to say that the civilian population who was in the army, in Imperial Japan's army, they were going out, raping the Chinese, firebombing the cities. They were insanely bloodthirsty as a military. So I just want to kind of that's why I put this on here, is because there comes this revisionism that Japan was some innocent country that just got invaded and got tricked by Germany in World War II to bomb the USA. And that they poked us and we hit them with a bigger stick. They were already fucking shit up in China. They wanted all of Asia.
Yeah, I don't know who you talk to, because I've never heard that.
It's a lot of terminally online leftists who are Japan can do no wrong, the same way they're Iran can do no wrong. And it's no, time out. The Iranian government is bad. It's a very bad thing. The people that we installed were bad.
Mm-hmm.
Iranian people, no. But the government, yes. So let's talk about Unit 731. So it was a covert biological and chemical warfare research and development department of the Imperial Japanese Army in World War II. It claimed the lives of roughly 14,000 people during the main duration of the unit from 1936 to 1945, but there was an estimated 200,000 deaths from its aftermath. So it was established in 1936 during the Second Sino-Japanese Japanese War, when Japan had occupied Manchukuo, I think is how you pronounce it. It's in northeast China. They started by the military police of the Japanese forces. It was started by the military police of the Japanese forces, but was eventually handed over to General Shiro Ishii, who was some commander in the Japanese military. And it was originally a military fort called Zongma Fortress, and that was held by China, but the Japanese took it over when they occupied China.
Mm-hmm.
The goal was to set up an experimentation camp for the Japanese to run miscellaneous tests on prisoners in. The victims included men, women, pregnant women, and even children. Babies that were born in this camp were subjected to sexual abuse, and the people who could get pregnant... Babies born in the camp were born from sexual abuse that was induced by the Japanese army, and then those babies were in turn experimented on themselves. So they were just like creating people to experiment on. The victims in this camp were called logs, and the facility was called the log cabin.
That's crazy.
That's wild to me. And it wasn't just limited to Chinese victims. A significant minority of the population was actually Russian, because China and Russia have that border.
Yeah.
So the formation of the unit. In 1925, the Geneva Protocol was signed, which placed a prohibition on biological weapons. But Japan in the 1930s reasoned that the Geneva Protocol verified the effectiveness of the weapons. So they basically were like, we would be stupid to not develop biochemical weapons because clearly someone's afraid of them. So if we hold those, the Geneva Protocol is like completely useless because we have them.
Yeah.
And no one else has been researching them. So they rushed to try and research that. And they wanted to covertly develop it, just in case something big came their way.
Yeah.
They chose the site in Northeast China because it would be off the homeland, which means they were not subject to international scrutiny because they were doing it. So they were like, hey, come on in, take a look. We're not developing anything, clearly.
Yeah.
But they weren't developing it in Japan. They were developing it in China.
Yeah. Usually a good idea to not develop bioweapons around your own populace.
Yeah, just in case. You never know. Fort Detrick in Langley, Virginia.
Yeah.
So they chose the site because it gave them plausible deniability and a wide victim pool to choose from. So they already knew what they were doing, like from the get-go. When it was formed, the site was refitted as the experimentation camp, but also as a prison in the center of it. So it was kind of like a concentric circle design. And it was set up so that the workers could monitor people as they worked. Like the experimenters could monitor people as they worked in the prison. At its capacity, the facility was able to hold about 3,000 staff and 600 detainees. So remember, they killed, 14,000 people over the course of about 15 years. And they could only hold 600 at a time. So they were going through it.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the experiments that were in there. So a couple of experiments. There's a whole list of them. First off was organ harvesting. So researchers would effectively order a body part, and guards would just select a viable subject and cut that part out without anesthesia and kill the person and the organ given to the researcher. So an example that they have record of was a brain. Basically, a researcher wanted to run some tests on a brain, so they cracked someone's head open with an axe, and then they just threw the body into a cremation pit and gave the brain to the researcher. Not all organ harvesting had medical purposes. Some of it was just for fun. Some Japanese experimenters were just like, I just want to see. So yeah. They also did injections. All genders were injected with diseases disguised as vaccines, mainly venereal diseases such as syphilis and gonorrhea.
They're giving these people syphilis, gonorrhea, and then making forceful babies with them. The fuck?
4D chess. 4D chess. So the next was vivisections, which are live operations without anesthesia, where they would remove organs just to see how the body would react to that. I assume it would be painful.
You take a piece out of a puzzle, is it complete? Like, no, it's like if you take your fucking radiator out of your car, what's gonna happen? Your car's not gonna work.
Yeah, exactly. So the next was biological warfare. In 1939, General Ishii began research and development in the camp on biowarfare on 6 weapons: anthrax, typhoid, paratyphoid, glanders, and dysentery, and plague-infested fleas.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. We're bringing back the bubonic plague.
1300s.
It's like that meme where it's what's wrong, honey? And he's ripping off the calendar to January 1984, going back to April 1536. So basically they would develop these weapons, and they were developed into bombs, obviously, because that's how you disperse bioweapons.
Yeah.
And they would just huddle the prisoners together and drop the bombs on them.
Wait, they dropped it on them?
Yeah.
They weren't just like
I mean, they pushed a bomb.
put it in the middle of the room and hit a button?
That's essentially what they did, is they tested like the release of the bomb.
Okay.
Because I mean, that's how all bombs are. They don't actually like hit the ground and blow up in the air.
Depends on the bomb, yeah.
But that's how a bioweapon would work.
Yeah.
And so they would just put the bomb in the center of the room and just test it. The reason that they wanted to do this was that obviously they wanted to see how effective it was, and they wanted to drop the bombs eventually on unoccupied Chinese territories, and they had plans to target waterways and cities. So they're probably dysentery through the waterways and anthrax through the cities.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. They also had weapons testing at this camp where prisoners were tested to see the impacts of grenades at various distances, as well as flamethrowers and shrapnel bombs.
If I had to guess, as not a scientist,
Could you
this
imagine?
would just kill the person.
Could you imagine? They're like, okay, today we're going to be testing the grenade effectiveness at various distances. And you're like, okay. And they're like, all right, pick a straw to see what distance it is. And you draw like the 1 foot thing instead of like the 10 foot.
Honestly, I think I would be happier with the 1 foot than the 10 foot. Yeah. It just kills me, and then I'm out of that horror show.
So sometimes with the weapons testing, they just needed to hone their shooting skills. So they were just target practice.
Lovely.
Yeah. There was also frostbite testing, which was interesting, which is exactly what it sounds like. Victims were forced to have frostbite, and they experienced mass hysteria and violence, and they wanted to see, the whole purpose was to see if they could find a cure to frostbite.
Is the cure not just like slowly warm them up?
Be warm. Don't be cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't be cold.
They essentially wanted to see if they could, because, you know, have you ever heard of like the forced undressing?
When you have once you start like about to die of hypothermia, yeah.
They wanted to see like if you could like
you could tank
like
it,
cure the mental impacts of it, so that you could like better deal with your situation. Then there's the students. So the Japanese government assigned minors from the mainland to work at these camps. Just summer camp. Could you imagine?
Hey, you're going overseas to work at the grenade distance testing facility.
This is what the Mormons do.
This is what they're doing down in South America.
So at the age of 14, a student named Hido Shimizu, as I'm assuming how it's pronounced, recalled being sent there to work, and he saw he recalled seeing multiple human-sized jars with preserved organs in it, one of which had
human-sized jars?
Human-sized jars.
That's a big fucking jar.
That is, yeah. And one of these jars had a bisected woman in it with a fetus with hair hanging out of her. So it developed enough fetus that it had hair.
And they just cut her in half?
Bisected is.
Oh, that way.
Yeah.
And then just put her in the jar?
Yeah, so obviously if you cut someone in half, they're going to die.
Yes.
So the fetus was hanging out. I assume they cut above the pelvis because the fetus was hanging out. And yeah, just preserved in a jar.
Both halves in there? Or
It didn't say. It just said he saw the bisected woman with...
That's crazy.
Could have been one of those things where like the guy needed a leg because he had like a foot fetish or something like that, and was just like, get me a leg.
Yeah.
So at the end of this camp's run in 1945, the Soviets ended up arresting 12 researchers and sentenced them to labor camps in Siberia. So they were like one gulag to another. This time you'll be the prisoner. And gave them a light sentence because of the testimony and information that they held. So essentially they were like, we could kill you, but thank you for telling us what went on in this camp. So for that, life in Siberia, which is honestly worse. Like,
I mean, they did the frostbite testing, so they know how to get around it. Yeah.
4D chess. I'm telling you, 4D chess. And now they can't get any venereal diseases when they get prison raped.
I was about to say they have gonorrhea, so no one wants to assault them.
Exactly. 4D chess.
Shit, maybe Imperial Japan was smarter than I gave it credit for.
It's like a anti-cyanide pill for spies. It's like, ha, gonorrhea pill. Can't attack me. The camp was shut down by the Truman administration, but they helped cover it up because they thought that the data was valuable and they wanted to use it for their own research and development.
Yep, as we did with a lot of things.
This is Operation Paperclip, but Japanese, so Japanese version of that. Operation Clippy.
Yeah.
It turns out that the information that the Truman administration got from all these people was not of any use, and none of it went anywhere.
Yeah, I wonder what information creating a fucking art installation where it's just half a woman and a baby head will do.
Provocative.
Like, that reminds me, did you ever go to that Bodies Revealed like show that was around? No, that was crazy.
I don't know what it is.
It was this it was a bunch of cadavers that were donated for like scientific purposes, and then they would do just like various things to them to show like various parts of the human body. Like in one section I remember there were 9 different jars, and then each one had a different fetus in it at like, this is 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 4 month. And then they would have like slices of people's brain that they would like kind of cut up and then just like display.
I mean,
in like panels.
In high school, I went to a special program for my anatomy class where we got to do cadaver work.
Yeah, I did that too. But this was like a bunch of like just different like cuts and like, oh, this is what like cancer looks like, and then it would show like a clump of cancer like on somebody's organs or something like that, and like this is what liver failure looks like, and then just like a bunch of different like, this is a complete intact human skeleton and things like that.
Right. My thing is that like clearly, I mean, the camps obviously were like marketed as R&D.
Yeah.
But clearly it was just a torture camp. Like that's all it was, right? So like what did Truman's administration really think they were going to get out of that? Like,
I mean, at the time, I feel like it was.
I mean, maybe
you see these horrific things that people are doing to other humans. Not to say that America wouldn't do something like that to another person, but at the time, it was just like, okay, they were doing something here. They were researching something here. Let's just take all of the information back with us in case they actually were able to give like a set of twins telepathic powers.
Yeah.
And
just
like
it's just like to me, it's like, we won. We dropped 2 nukes on you.
Yeah.
You have nothing to negotiate. Give me the information or I'm going to shoot and kill you now and find the information myself. Like,
well, I mean, I feel like if you drop 2 nuclear weapons on somebody, they're going to be very subservient.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying is like they gave them
bro, can you stop scratching, dog? Chill.
They gave them gave them amnesty essentially. Like they covered up the camps.
Yeah.
Under the guise of like, oh, this information might be useful, but it's like, no, you could just say that the camps existed and say that we are collecting the data in case there's something that we need to know.
Yeah.
Like
I just feel like it's bad optics to be like, hey, we got this information from a torture camp and we are now going to use it. Like,
yeah. I mean, this was during the development of the CIA too. So, you know, wow, that was number 1. So
yeah, that sounds pretty awful. I don't think I would want to be there unless I was the 1 foot away grenade guy.
1 foot away grenade guy. Morbidly, I would like to see a preserved body in a human-sized jar, but it needs to be like a dead person. It can't be someone who is violently bisected while alive. It just needs to be someone who died.
I mean, they did die before they put them in the jar.
Well, they were violently bisected. That's what I'm saying. Like they can't. I don't want to see someone who was murdered for the purpose of the jar.
You don't want to see a murder victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you were like, hey, here's like what a preserved human would look like, I'd probably take a peek.
You can go to that Tutankhamun museum that travels around.
Is it really like?
I don't think they have his actual corpse.
Okay.
Or his real sarcophagus or real anything.
I don't think so either. I think that they ate it.
Dude, I saw a video of them when they like opened up his crypt or whatever it's called, and it was just like the sarcophagus was just like on a shelf, and then the wagon and like all the tools they used to move it in there were just kind of thrown in the corner. And then like that was it. It was just like a tiny ass room with just like him on a shelf and like some pottery and then like a broken wagon.
Have you ever seen the inside of like the pyramids, like the renditions of the like hallways, how they're hella small?
Yeah.
I never got that. Like, why are they so tiny?
Well, I mean, people have gotten bigger over time.
But they're like, you have to crouch to get in there. It's not like, oh, people were 4'11" back then. It was like, oh, people have to crawl still to get through this.
I mean, that was like what, thousands of years ago?
Yeah.
They could have been 4'11".
Tutankhamun was also fat.
He was a child.
He was fat. He was obese. He died of obesity.
Oh, I thought he just died. I never
No,
looked at how
he died of obesity. He had like diabetes, basically.
Okay.
Like all he ate was like sugar.
Can you blame him?
No, if I was a pharaoh, I would only eat sugar too.
If I was a 12-year-old pharaoh.
Okay, let's read socials and get out of here. YouTube, we are Learning Curve Pod. We are posting YouTube videos every Thursday at 2:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Audio will go up on Wednesday like normal. Bluesky, we are learningcurvepod.bsky.social. Twitter, learncurvepod. Instagram, learningcurve.podcast. And TikTok, we are at Learning Curve Podcast. Bodhi's Twitch is Shrink3Dink, and my Twitch is ChefCram_. And I promise to start streaming again as soon as I don't have any more birthdays on Thursday this month, because I have a bunch.
How many Thursday birthdays do you have?
We have one this week, one the following week, and one the following week.
Who's this? Is it anybody I know?
Sean's is this week.
Sean's is this week?
Yeah, it's on Thursday.
Oh, I thought it was next week.
July 10th.
Oh. Okay, well that shows you how much I know about Sean.
There you go. And it'll also just be all up here, the socials.
You're
staring at him. Would you do the little Albert experiment?
How far away are you willing to stand from a grenade?
Bye.
See ya.